If I didn't have Paulie Mac joining me right now, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, it would be next level depression if I didn't have Paul McCaffrey. That was one of the most embarrassing losses in recent history that I can remember for the Golden State Warriors. Thankfully, he's joining me next. We're talking Warriors. We'll still try to have a good time despite that brutal loss. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, where we're exclusively live. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn, and more specifically, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba. to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Paulie Mac is free on Twitter. You can follow him there at Paulie's Pod, the former host of one of the most popular morning programs in Bay Area history. I'm not being hyperbolic saying that. That is truth. Paul McCaffrey, it is great to see you, brother. I wish we were having a show tonight under better circumstances, but the Warriors lose a brutal game. That was just brutal to watch, to experience. 119-112. The Knicks led that game wire to wire. How are you doing, my brother? Great to see you, man. And your immediate reaction to that really embarrassing loss.
Well, okay, so a bunch of stuff. You know what's funny? Like already, just based on the things you've said in this first 2 minutes, I'm going to wind up having some questions for you.
All right.
Before I go there, I want to cheer you up a little because you're right. It was a tough loss. It was not a pretty game. The beginning of the game was excruciating. What, it took like 4 minutes to score a single point. A lot of turnovers early. But, dude, I'm going to cheer you up real quick. Now, Cyrus and I, for the audience, we go way back, man. I've known Cyrus for a long time. And Cyrus
24 years, I believe. 24.
Insane. I know. It's insane, bro.
Yeah,
so long friendship. And I know this about Cyrus. When you're down in the dumps and you need to get cheered up, you always go to some Tom Petty. I know.
Yeah. My boy.
I'm shooting this in a room. Now, if you look the other way over my shoulder, that's my Tom Petty Fillmore poster behind me. If you see that.
Is that the 99 show? Which show is that?
That was in 97.
Or 7, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah,
no, it's all good. All good. But, yeah, he did like whatever it was, 20 shows or whatever, and that was the one I got to. And I got the poster behind me. So for some good particles, some good vibes, cheer up my guy Cyrus. Just know that Tom Petty is behind us watching it all. Yeah. But Cyrus,
dude, before we move on to Warriors, our mutual friend Catherine Neville's, like, she's a rock star on 107.7 The Bone.
Yeah.
What's her radio DJ name?
Mickey Black.
Mickey Black. Thank you.
Yeah.
So she works at the Fillmore. She did at least, it would have been one of my biggest regrets to turn her down to see Tom Petty when he was playing with his other band, Mudcrutch.
I remember
they played
when
a
you were
live
there.
show at the Fillmore. I saw Tom live there. It lived up to the hype.
I remember.
And then he sadly left the world about a year or so later. But that's my Tom Petty story. Thanks for bringing him up, man. I love Tom.
Last thing on Petty, and that's a good one because I actually remember you. We were still working together at that time, and you were probably the most excited guy in the building for Mudcrutch. So I'm glad you got into that show.
Mudcrutch was under the radar, man. You have to really be a Tom Petty fan. That was his band that he actually first played with when he was a kid, and then they brought the band back together, kind of like what we're doing now a little bit, man. Dude, Paulie, you went to the Mecca of basketball, better known as Madison Square Garden.
I did.
About a week or two ago, you were in New York with I believe your son or sons. I don't know if you went with both of them or just one. But it's apropos that you're here tonight for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, you went to a Knicks game at the shrine of NBA basketball. I love Madison Square Garden. I went and saw a playoff game there actually once many years ago. But But I love the timing of it because the last time I felt good about this Warriors team was that road trip. It was a 4-game road trip. Yeah. They went 3-1. They got their ass kicked at the very end by the Celtics. But despite that, you saw a team that was kind of like on the rise, that they had momentum. They looked and felt good, metaphorically speaking. And And then now it's like back to this where they're inconsistent. Steve Kerr is going back to playing his favorites over who the best players are. I don't know why Kuminga got the treatment he did tonight. We'll talk about that. But dude, what's your impression, man, of this team, and especially about tonight's game?
Well, I think that you're pretty much on the mark with everything you just said. And I'll say, just to respond to that, the experience I had at Madison Square Garden was amazing. Like Cyrus said, if you've never been to that building and you're a basketball fan, you really owe it to yourself at some point to find a way just to go see any game. If you can get a Warrior game, that's great. I kind of planned a little trip around that. You're right, with my son, who's up in college now. But
wow,
took him to the. I know.
That's crazy.
I know. But I took him to the Garden, and first of all, let me tell you this: one of my biggest takeaways is seeing the Warriors on the road, especially in Madison Square Garden. That's a pretty loyal fan base the Knicks have. The amount of Warrior fans and Curry jerseys in that crowd were truly, I was stunned. I knew there would be some, but it reminded me of, honestly, like when Michael Jordan was playing. Right. No matter what building he went into, that's like a hot ticket that night in that city. So the place was packed, a lot of Warrior fans, and like audible, loud applause every time Curry would hit a three. I think he hit his first three like 8 seconds into the game. And there were a lot of celebrities in the building that night. And it was just cool to see all the stars come out for Steph, especially, and also just the way that the Garden crowd treated Steph in particular, like with a lot of love. And that just, like I said, it actually reminded me of the Michael Jordan years where no matter what building he went into, he would light the place up. So, yeah, it was a great experience. It's funny about tonight, Cyrus, because I feel like, let me see, Steph did not shoot well from three. What was he?
Four of 13 on the night.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, like if Steph hits maybe 3, 4, 5 more of those threes, the Warriors might have had a shot to win this game. I mean, a lot of it had to do with, and of course, Curry still led the team in scoring, as he always does.
Yeah.
But him being slightly off from three, I think really hurt the Warriors tonight. And then, like, I would like to ask you, though, Cyrus, because you said up front that you think this is one of the most embarrassing losses of the year. Now, why do you feel like that it was such an embarrassing loss?
Well, because look, the Warriors coming into tonight were just 3 games back of the 3 teams ahead of them.
Right.
And they're entering tonight. There's only 16 games remaining. They're fighting for playoff positioning. And it wasn't that long ago when you were in New York and the Warriors went into that game and they won convincingly, 110-99.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the box score of the game right now. Kuminga played 30 minutes, had 25 points. Stephen Curry played 32 minutes. He was 8 of 18 from beyond the arc, had 31 points.
Yeah.
It was just a different vibe. And they won that game. They took care of business.
Yeah.
Moses Moody, who back then, amazing how much changes in just a week or two. Look, I know his minutes were limited tonight because he injured his knee, but he's fallen out of the rotation, and that's going to lead to a sort of unpopular a talking point I'm going to bring up with you, but I believe it wholeheartedly, and I'm going to be curious what you have to say.
Okay.
But it's just, this is a team that I feel like is underachieving. I feel like they have a roster of incredibly talented players. They have the potential to make a run and make some noise, and then they just lay another stinker like this. And with this loss, I'm going to look at the standings in a second, but I mean, they went from being 3 games behind to 3 teams ahead of them. They were within striking distance of legitimate playoff positioning to get out of the play-in. Right. And now from this one loss against the Knicks team that I do feel strongly is inferior, now the Warriors are back down to the 10 seed. They now trail the Lakers by a game. They now trail the Sacramento Kings by 4 games. Just this one loss.
I know.
That big of an impact.
And it's going to feel like that the rest of the season because of what you said, however many games are left, 15 or 16 or whatever.
Like, 15 now, yeah.
Yeah, and every game carries a lot of weight now. And you're right. I mean, the positive spin on that, though, is if this team can just go like on a little bit of a run, like you said, the way they were playing on the road when they had that Garden game in New York, and I don't even really count that Boston game because they clearly were just kind of like took the day off. Yeah. But if they can get back to that kind of cohesiveness and just like you said, again, Cyrus, more consistent basketball, they could actually jump up a few spots. They just got to put together a hot streak and win some games. That's it.
Right. But I guess that's what really disappoints me is I thought if they were going to do that, you take care of business tonight. Like, this was, like, look, the Warriors right now, it's crazy. The Warriors at home this year are under 500. Like make that make sense, man. They're 17 and 18. Make that make sense.
That is so shocking to me, considering during the Curry and Steve Kerr era, how dominant they've been at home. I mean, there have been seasons they were pretty much, as you know, they were almost unbeatable at home, and now it's like a coin flip. I know it's really distressing. They got to get back to securing an actual home court advantage. They really do. Right now, it's just kind of it's not there. It's frustrating.
There's something going, and what's really frustrating is the lack of consistency, because 1 minute we feel like they are there. Like again, that road trip. There's one thing that's changed, and we're going to talk about that when we come back. We're also going to talk about what's going on with Steph, because I heard a stat on the broadcast tonight. It was great, by the way. I don't know what your feelings were, but I thought it was great to see and hear Bob Myers on the color commentary. If you watch the ESPN broadcast, I miss that dude, man. He's a good dude. I know you're friends with him.
Oh yeah,
right mind. I feel like he's missed. I mean, he seems happy though. I mean, so there's not much you can say about that. But so we got a lot more to talk about. I got Paul McCaffrey here. No bully. You and I can do those very immature, childish sound effects all
That's
day
what
long.
we specialize in. Yeah.
But let's give some love to our sponsors tonight, the folks who are paying the bills. And first up is the folks over at Stitch Fix. Paul, you ever hear of these folks? Are you familiar with Stitch Fix?
Tell me about them.
So Stitch Fix is all about giving you that instant confidence boost that you get from an outfit that makes you look really good. They're about giving you style, being a stylist for you online. That's what you get with Stitch Fix. You get comfort, you get style, all in one package. You can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. All you have to do is give your stylist your size, your style, and your budget preferences, and they will send you boxes when you want them, how you want them. There's no subscription required. If you want to try it once and it doesn't work, that's it. It's over. They send 5 just for you pieces with an order, plus outfit recommendations, pro styling advice. And it's all about making you look good and feel good. It's style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/locked-on. That's stitchfix.com/locked-on. One more time, stitchfix.com/locked-on.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
As you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. I've talked about it a lot on this show. Locked On Sports Today. Baseball fans, Paulie, I know you love your baseball. Mark your calendars for March 20th. That's in 2 days at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 Pacific, for the best Major League Baseball season preview, coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. And March 20th, again, at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific. Be the first to get local insight from the Major League Baseball local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Find it on March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. And make sure you follow Paul McCaffrey, the man who avoided social media for forever. You were like the last holdout, and now you have a Twitter account.
They finally got me. Yeah, they finally got me.
Tell people what happened, man. Why'd you get on Twitter? People could follow you at Paulie's Pod. Yeah. What happened, brother?
I just felt the heat. I mean, I was getting so much grief and so much abuse from everybody for not being on social media. So I finally said, okay, you know what I'll do? I'll start a Twitter account, now known as that X, obviously. So far so good. It's actually, I got to tell you the truth, I've been pleasantly surprised with how you can interact with your audience. You can really communicate with people. So it doesn't have to be all negative BS, because there is a lot of that, obviously, a lot of kind of pollution out there, but I don't really tread in that. I try to keep it positive and just talk to the people I want to talk to. So yeah, come on by Paulie's Pod. You'll find me. I'm out there. Yeah,
absolutely. And you can find me. I bailed on the X on the Twix. I'm on Threads. You can follow me there at Dog Wild. But anyways, Paulie, Stephen Curry. I heard this stat on the broadcast tonight, and it was just shocking to hear it, but it's true. Since the All-Star break, he's only averaging 22 points per game, man. His stat line tonight was not something we briefly touched on it. Just to give you the whole stat sheet, he played 33 minutes, 19 seconds. He was 8 of 20 from the field. That's not so bad. But the 4 of 13 from 3. And I think more importantly, and he finished the game with 27 points, like you mentioned. He led all Warriors scorers. But what I noticed is those big clutch shots that he normally hits in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
I mean, look, the Warriors, they ride or die with Steph, man. If he's hitting those shots, they win. But tonight, every time we were expecting one of those big shots to fall and for the game to turn around and the momentum to shift, because the Warriors kept us close, man. They were within 4 in that fourth quarter, but those shots were not going in. We heard Steve Kerr a couple of weeks ago talk about maybe Steph's exhausted, even though Steph quickly denied that. So who knows? The point is, what do you think's going on, man? Well, is Steph aging? Is it age? He's 36 now, dude. That's not as young as he used to be. What are your thoughts on that?
It's not. I think you raised a lot of good points, Cyrus. I mean, yes, it is something that's pretty noticeable this year post All-Star game. And like you said, usually that's money in the bank. Steph in the fourth quarter, he's all about being clutch and hitting those big shots. So a lot of times, obviously, traditional basketball thinking is when you're missing shots like that, it usually means your legs are fatigued and you don't have your lower body under the shot. But I will say this, like, he doesn't appear to be fatigued to me because you watch him off the ball and like he always does, how much movement, he's constantly moving. And I don't know that there's anybody in the NBA who works harder without the basketball in their hands. So, yeah, Steph has logged a lot of miles. He still logs a lot of miles every night. There's no way I would ever count him out of any equation. I'm just not going to do that based on everything I've seen him do. So I do think there's a lot of game left in his body. Let's not forget, too, he was just injured. He just missed a handful of games. So that could have affected, his overall feeling and health on the court tonight. And like you said, I mean, that's the thing. Those shots that he missed tonight, if he were to have made, let's say, 5 more of those and chipped in, 15 more points from the three-point line, the Warriors might win that game. Because you're right, they did. They cut it to 6 a couple of times. I mean, they had the game close, but every time they did that, the Knicks would turn around, the Warriors would turn the ball over, and the lead would be 11 points again. So, first of all, I do want to credit the Knicks a little bit. I think that they might be better than some people think. And there is more to that team than just Brunson, although he is obviously a stud and he's going to be a real player. He already is in this league, but I think he's the kind of guy that he could carry on playing this way if he can remain healthy, I think, for a long time, just based on his body type and his size. Real tough kid, another Villanova product. I think the Knicks are a pretty good basketball team. I mean, they've got 41 wins now after tonight. But I don't think the separation between them and the Warriors is that great. That's a team the Warriors should beat at home, like you said. And they have to get back. I heard Steph on the pregame tonight actually talking about home court advantage and what the playoffs mean and what home playoff games mean. And I don't know. I mean, it might be harder for some of the younger guys to understand that, to don't have postseason experience like Trace Jackson Davis. But I think his basketball IQ is so high. I'm a big fan of that kid. I would like to see more of him, actually, because just feels like every time he's on the court, first of all, the Warriors' defense just goes up significantly. He's a shot blocker. He understands the game. He knows where to be position-wise. And he's a presence, I think, that really helps his team. But in any case, with Steph, I don't want to count him out, Cyrus. I don't want to count him out. But you're right. He's not the same guy right now. But hopefully he can fight his way out of this. And it'll just take one game. If he gets a hot hand, everybody will calm down, I think.
Oh, no, of course. Yeah, absolutely. It's just a question of if that's going to happen and when. And, I mean, there's only 15 games to go, dude. This season is wrapping up. We got a lot still to touch on.
Okay.
We got more with Paul McCaffrey. We got to talk a little bit about Draymond Green, man. This was not a good night for him either. There's a few stats I need to point up, especially his three-point shooting. Remember how long and how often this year people have been talking about his three-point shot being amazing. It's not lately.
Well,
and even defensively, he's kind of
tonight, right?
Yeah, he hasn't hit a 3 in 3 games now, so he's at an 0 for 3 games. So we're going to talk about Dre, and then again, I have to touch on what has changed for this Warriors team. It's obvious between what you saw in New York when you were there on that road trip and what's happening now. And I'd love to know if you agree with me or not, man, because it won't be a popular topic, but I do think it's accurate. We'll touch on that stuff and so much more after we get to our second sponsor of this evening, which is What are you drinking, by the way? What beverage are you
I got a little
enjoying?
Gatorade and water, a little mixture I like to do.
I
Yeah.
love it. Gator,
Yeah.
I love it. So not too much sugar, but you're still getting the electrolytes.
Dude,
Goodness,
totally.
brother.
Totally. Yeah,
Goodness.
just got to thin it out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I'm completely toxic with Coca-Cola.
Well, I'm a fan of Coca-Cola too. I'm not going to lie, but I don't usually drink it at this hour. You know what I mean?
Dude, I don't normally either, but when you're doing a show, maybe that's why I'm up till 2-3 every night when I do a
Might
show.
be, dude. Well, every can of Coke is like having a cup of coffee. So yeah, you're winding yourself up, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it is not good for me. Anyways, let's give some love to our second sponsor for the evening, and that is LinkedIn, and more specifically, LinkedIn Jobs. Paulie, as you know, I'm an educator besides hosting this program. I'm a professor, and I try to help every one of my students find jobs, achieve their goals. And what I tell all of them is you have to be on LinkedIn. That is where all the headhunters are.
Yeah.
That is where all the networking is happening virtually. And it's not just for job seekers. If you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're like Paul McCaffrey, who might be on the verge of building a new media empire of his own. I'm totally just making that up. But who knows, man? You're a popular guy. You're just hosting a morning show. If anyone can do it, you can. And if you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. They're not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. They do it all while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small business owners get a quality candidate and a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, one final segment of Locked On Warriors. Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers at the absolute latest, unless I'm feeling absolutely sick, we will have a post-game show. And next up on the agenda and on the schedule, more specifically, the Warriors are off tomorrow, but the 3-game homestand continues Wednesday when they host the Memphis Grizzlies. So definitely tune in for that. Guest to be determined. But right now, I have the former host of the Murph Mac show, the legend himself, Paul McCaffrey, a.k.a. Paulie Mac. You can follow him on Twitter. Yes, folks, he is on social media now. Follow him there at Paulie's Pod. And I'm sure that's where you're going to be announcing your next venture. Whenever you decide it's time to get going again, my vacation's over, that's where people can follow you and find out what exactly you're going to be doing. So follow Paul McCaffrey on Twitter at Paulie's Pod. Draymond Green tonight, his 3-point shooting coming into the season, or coming into tonight's game. He was shooting 41.4% from 3 on the year. Those shots were falling almost exclusively in the first half, but it's been a staggering number. It's been very impressive, but it's the reversion to the mean is starting to kick in, is what I'm sensing. Over the last 10 games, he's regressed to 27.8% from 3. And as we just mentioned a moment ago, he hasn't made a 3-point shot now in 3 straight games. They're almost always falling short. But what's worse is that, I mean, look, you don't have Draymond Green on your team for 3-point shooting. That's an incredible bonus if he's hitting that. You have him on your team for defense, for lockdown defense, for one of the greatest defensive players this game has ever seen. But lately, I'm not seeing that, man. I mean, he's abandoning coming out to the 3-point line so he can save energy. At least that's what it looks like to me. And then tonight, I mean, Steve Kerr took him out with a minute to play. He was doing a weird substitution. I didn't understand it. He took him out and brought Gary Payton II in. I don't know if it was because Dre needed a breather. I have no clue what was going on there. But the point is, if this was the Draymond Green of old, that's not happening. We're not talking about his defense. There was a sequence at the end of the third quarter where he missed a 3-pointer, then he gave up a layup, and then he turned it over on the inbounds. I don't know if you remember that. It was this is not the Dre we're accustomed to, man. What do you think is going on, if anything? What's your opinion on Dre?
Well, you're right. I mean, that was a pretty ugly sequence and very un-Draymond-like, because he is like you said, not only a great defender, I think he's probably like an underrated assist man, especially when it comes to finding Steph Curry. He's just got a knack for finding Steph like nobody else, and they played together so long. That's going to happen. What does concern me, though, are defensive lapses, because that's Draymond Green for so long, and still really that's what he represents. He sets the tone for the whole team. Like Draymond, when he locks in, the team will follow suit. So you're right. That sequence where he gave up the layup, then the inbounds got messed up, and he turned it over there. Like, that was a really ugly sequence. You don't see that very often from Draymond. As far as, like, the three-point shooting, I know the beginning of the year was like, wow, what is this, 2014? Or it's like when he was younger, he used to pop that thing sometimes to a lot more successful, degrees. And,
tonight, look at the wrist was there. I don't know if you noticed that. He was actually like flicking the wrist. It looked good.
Yeah.
It looked good. It looked good. Yeah.
The second one he shot tonight was like a line drive that just hit the rim. I was like, damn, that was an ugly shot. But I do get it, because sometimes they just leave him so alone out there that I don't object when he takes the shot, because he's literally unguarded. So it's like, all right, man, listen, if you're going to pop that, you got to make them. So I know he spends time in practice shooting them. I've seen him do it. I know he does. So fans should know that. It's not like he doesn't work on that shot. He definitely puts time in, but in the game, it's a different animal with everything going on. Are you, like we were saying about Steph and his age, at some point those miles, they do catch up with you. It's like a car, man. You put a lot of mileage on a car, Cyrus, private joke between you and me, even if it's a gremlin, at some point, you know what I mean? Shout out to the gremlins. At some point, the mileage does catch up. So maybe that's a little bit of what we're seeing with Draymond Green too. But I would need to see that for a lot more of a prolonged period, because like Steph, I'm not going to count Draymond out just yet. But he's got to tighten it up. Tonight was not his best. And I thought Podziemski was kind of, where was he tonight? I don't even think he scored. I think
a lot of people are annoyed with the Podziemski treatment, because Kerr, it seems like he plays his favorites, and Podziemski's one of them. And you're right, man. He played 25 minutes tonight. Zero points.
Yeah.
And even the rebounding wasn't really there. He only had 2 boards. He was a team worst, minus 15 in that rating.
Yeah.
It wasn't good, man. It wasn't good.
He seemed slightly off all night, and their whole the rhythm of the team was off all night. There was like not a really consistent flow. And every time, like we were saying earlier, when they were able to get the lead to single digits, get it to like 5-6 points, the Knicks would open it right back up just as fast. So they never really got their legs under them tonight that way. But like you said, how many more home games on the stand? 2 more?
2 more, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing they could do right now is go win both those games. I mean, honestly, you're at the point in the season where you can't be throwing games away. You just can't.
That's how I feel about tonight, man. Yeah, That's why this bummed me out so much, man.
Yep.
This, to me, was a game you couldn't throw away, and they just threw it right in the trash, man. It was incredibly disappointing. And by the way, in the chat, Nick J writes, the Kremlin. Who is he?
No.
Gremlin, the car.
This is a joke. Me and Cyrus go way back on this. It's an inside joke. But no, there was this awful piece of crap car back in the day. They were actually called Gremlins with a G. Gremlin. Ugliest car. Well, look it up online. You can find pictures of one.
What came first, the car or the movie character?
I'm going to say the car. I'm guessing.
I think so too. Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, the Gremlin. I'm calling about the Gremlin. Absolutely. It's comedy genius. It's old school, man, because that's what we are. But it's so. I want to segue to this, man. Okay. When the Warriors were in this road trip where they went 3-1, yes, they got their butts kicked in Boston, but anyone who follows basketball, follows this team, knows that was a throwaway game. It was a 3-1 road trip against some talent, this Knicks team included. And the one difference between that team and what we're seeing now, and again, this is a hot topic. I know a lot of people will disagree with me on this, but I don't think Andrew Wiggins is him anymore, man. And there's a strong possibility what we saw in 2022 was a fluke. Most of the national media are saying that 6-month stretch is the only time in his career where he's played like an all-star. We've never seen it before. We've never seen it since. This is a guy who is the second highest paid player on this team on the long haul. Clay makes the second most this year, but overall, he's the big money guy, man. And a lot of people entering the season thought that he was going to be the number 2 dog on this team, but the lack of consistency has been plaguing him all year. Tonight, 24 minutes, dude scores 7 points, 2 of 9 from the field. Just defensively, Jalen Brunson was eating him up alive. Jalen was eating everyone up alive. So I don't want to just point the finger at him on that. But the point is, man, what we were seeing on that road trip was Wiggins missing in action again. And at the same time, Moses Moody was starting. That was some of the most encouraging games I've seen all season for the Warriors. Yeah. I know Moody got hurt tonight, man. So, he actually played, thankfully, but he's been getting DNPs lately. I don't think it's fair to Moody to do this herky-jerky, like just always stay ready. Even Moses Moody has been asked about it himself. Like, Moses, how do you feel about Kerr treating you with the whole always be ready approach?
It sucks.
Yeah, dude, that's how he feels. And he actually did really answer. That's how he answered that question. Truthfully.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, man? Am I being crazy saying that I think Moody should play over Wiggins? What are your thoughts?
No, you're not. You're not at all, Cyrus. In fact, I too have been very frustrated by Wiggins, and I don't know what to say at this point about him. That title they won when they beat the Celtics in the finals, like that whole postseason was some of the most focused and intense basketball I've ever seen from him. Like, if you remember, he was going to the rim with authority, dude. He was throwing it down in people's faces and playing a very well-rounded game. He was D'ing guys up. He was passing the ball well. He was shooting well. And like I said, his aggressiveness just jumped out at you. And, again, with the time he misses where he's just gone from the team and there's no real, definitive explanation as to why he's not around. Like, it's very frustrating. And I hate to say this because I know he's a professional and he's a champion, but there are nights when I question, like, where is his head? Like, he just seems like he kind of wanders around out there without a purpose or without, like, really like an intent of playing the game hard. And I'm not calling him out saying that he's dogging it, but there are sequences where I'm like, damn, I don't know why Wiggins didn't pick that guy up or why Wiggins didn't rotate. And like you said, Brunson was chewing him up. Cyrus, it's not just you. There are a lot of Warrior fans who are very frustrated with Wiggins. And, the amount of minutes he's getting right now, you got to come up with something. And he's not. At least get me to double digits, dude. You got to give me at least 10 a night. At the bare minimum. And a lot of times he's not doing that. I don't know. I wish I could be more positive, Cyrus, but I don't know what to say about him. At this point, I'm frustrated. I don't know where his head is sometimes.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. The traveling Urquidez, I don't know if you agree with this or not. A great question he brings up here. Steph was overplayed too early in the season, and that's the result for his energy being down now. Agree, disagree? What are your thoughts, Paulie?
Not necessarily. Maybe there's something to that, but it's not something that I've really thought about. How about yourself?
I think there's some truth to that. I thought at this stage of their careers, Steph, Dre, Clay, like I thought there would be a more of a minutes management system in place. I was expecting that last year. I thought the whole plan, and this was Meyer's plan, which Kerr did not follow, was start giving the youngsters last year some serious run, take the pressure off the veterans, save them, keep them fresh for the postseason. And we never saw that, man. We saw heavy minutes for the veterans. These guys aren't getting any younger, so there could be truth to that. Who knows?
You know what, Cyrus? Building off of what you just said, taking the pressure off some of the old time guys, like now they're going to have to put in more and more work down the stretch. Like they really can't afford to take any time off or give a guy a night to catch his breath, because every game is so meaningful now that you need your best players out there. So Steph is not going to get the rest he might have had if this team had, rallied up more wins. Nor is Clay. All those guys, Loon, I'm sure could use a break too, but they're going to depend on all these guys now to get as many wins down the stretch as they can.
Yeah, it's crazy what's going on here. Well, they're back at it Wednesday. Paulie, I love you. You have an open door policy on this program. You can go on every night, man. I would welcome it. And again, people can follow you at Paulie's Pod. If and when you ever have any big announcements, that's where people can find it. You'll obviously be on my show as well.
Oh yeah.
What are any final thoughts, man? What are you thinking? What do you got promoting and whatever you got going on?
I'm going to still stay positive with this Warrior team, because these 15 games they have left, if they can just get on a little run, I don't know, maybe win 10 of their final 15, it would really, maybe even beyond that, if they can just catch fire and get hot and get everybody on the same page. So I feel like they have an opportunity. They really do. Don't get stuck in that playing game, man. You don't want to be in that whole nonsense, that whole thing. You want to just be a seeded team. You know what I mean? And let's play a real playoff series. So I'm not going to flush them just yet. There is time to save this thing.
There is.
And like you said, bro, I'll be back, Cyrus. Love you so much, and thanks for having me, brother.
And as Joe writes eloquently in the chat, Angels fly because they take themselves like.
Shout out Ralph Barbieri. Yeah.
Oh, that is comedy, man. Brother, I love you. Thank you to everyone for tuning in as always. And we'll be back at this soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.